Okay. Stream has started. Time to share. I'm gonna post it in the server really quickly. Self promo. Boop. Boop, boop, boop. At. Boom. Posted. Okay. I'm trying to figure out what's a good, streaming time because I know people are in school right now. So I know it's harder to join a live stream when you're at school, but we're just gonna test different times and see what works. So I'm just gonna give people a little bit to get here. Sorry. I'm gonna give people some time to get here before taking my starting off. I should probably advertise, but you know. Advertising is boring, I'm sorry. Okay, let's just turn on there we go. Okay. So welcome to the stream, everyone. Nobody's here yet, but welcome anyways. We might have some guests, we'll see. I know people have school, so we'll just have to see how busy everyone is. For, anybody in the chat, I would appreciate if you would put, what's it called? Put, your time zone in the, what time works best for you. Hi, Kira! Welcome. I really would like if everyone in the chat can put, what time works best for you for me to stream at. And please put your time zone after it so I know. Because I'm trying to figure out a schedule. I'm thinking of streaming, Wednesdays and Thursdays. And then leaving my weekend open, because I'm always a bit busy on the weekend. But we'll see, because I'm in college, so it really just depends on what my teachers give me. I have a lot of work to do Wednesday this week and Thursday, so it's if I wanted to stream on those days, would it be a good idea? You know? So we're just gonna see. I'm collecting the toys because why not? I already collect plushies, so your Eastern Standard Time? Okay. Good to know. A lot of people I know online are Eastern Standard Time. I'm usually behind with my Pacific Standard Time. I feel like I should be way more calculated when playing this, but I'm not. Let me recycle the ones I have. I have this one. I have this one. Kira, do you like my PNGTuber? It's like yours, kind of. Yeah, I did. Chai, bought one for me and her. It was really sweet of her. She didn't have to do that, but she did. It's my Sona. Look at him. I love how he floats. I'm so glad I put that, like, animation on, because it just looks so cute to see him floating there. I just love seeing him sit there with his little, blink. It's so sweet. Imagine all of, oh my god. That would be so cute. It really would be. I haven't seen Chai's yet. I'm actually really excited to see what hers looks like. It would be so cute. Same OMG. I know. Like the pie hat, like I haven't seen it, but I can imagine the pie hat is gonna be so cute. Like in this chibi art style, it's gonna look really good. Oh, I have that one. Low-key tempted to buy another one. Yeah. It's so cute. And they're so fast. Like, they're like, oh, I'm done. They sent it to me. I'm like, what? How are you done already? It's been like 3 seconds. I thought I drew fast. I want to make one, like, low-key just because it seems fun. But I like the one I have already, so I feel like I don't need to. If that makes sense. Chai paid them a solid. The only thing I just realized is, my Sona, the PNGTuber has white toes on his back feet, and he doesn't have white toes on his back feet. He has black toes on his back feet. That would be so good. Yes. That would be so good. I would love that. You can make her talking face, like, super, like, funny, but then just make the, make the non-speaking face, like, super normal, and then make the talking face, like, really funny. A sock one? That would be, I love that idea. They're so easy to make too. I might have to make one, like, just because it would be fun. Oh, I already have that one too. Might make some as gifts for you guys if I get. Oh, that's so sweet. You don't have to do that, but thank you. Even if you don't make them, the thought is just like, that's so sweet. Also, I should make you a mod on this channel. There you go. You're a mod now. Okay. I don't know what character I would draw if I made them, though. Maybe... I feel like I would want to do, like, someone, like, somewhat simple. I mean, I guess with it's not really, like, animated, like, not frame-by-frame animation, so it wouldn't be as bad. But I don't know if I should do, like, a full body, or if I should just do, like, a bust. Yeah, that's true. That is true. I have another one. That's, another character, and it's just a bust. It's for my, YouTube channel, like, there's supposed to be, like, character sprites instead of, like, a PNGTuber, like, character sprites, but... You know what I realized? You could do, like... You could make it, like... You could use sprites from a game. Wait, hold on. I just had so many ideas. I'm making lists of everything I want to do. Wait, I just got such a good idea. Hold on. What if you do this? Oh my god, I need to make this. Just like a possum. Oh, that would be so good. Oh my god, yes. I have to do that. That'd be so funny. Okay. I have so many ideas now. I have all those ones. Why did I hit? Oh my god. I have this one. I have this. I have this. I have that. I have that. I have this. Hello. Hello. I have this one. 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 Okay. Welcome, welcome to the stream. I might do some adventure soon. We'll see. I'm trying to get all these toys. I don't know, like, what made me decide, I want to do this, but something in my brain said yes. Have that one already. Ugh. Getting these gold ones is gonna be hard. We're at 4 viewers. Nice, nice. Oh, now we're at 3. That's okay. I don't need a lot of viewers to feel like I'm... Like, I don't need that to feel important. I'm surprised Rosie's not here. Is she online? No. This, like, song is freaking me out because they low-key sound like they're breathing in my ear. I just used real cat. Oh my god. You have to send me that. I have to see that. Can you send me like a screenshot on Discord of what it looks like? I need to see that, please. That's so funny. I feel like my screen is way off. Like, is that better? Let's see. I think that's better. It's hard. It would be better if I had a second monitor, but I don't, so... You know, we gotta make do with what I got. It'd look a lot cleaner if I had a second monitor, but I don't, so... It's still like... Does anybody have a Cole holiday sweater? I swear I just had one. Let me look. Yes, I do. What's your username? I'll gift it to you. Just tell me what your user is. Swizzle, okay. Swizzle. Here. Are you in your den? Okay, good. Okay, good. I was about to say put bad on trade. You were prepared. That's okay. Dude. Your den is so cool. You're welcome, no worries. I have one on my spare, so it's not a problem. I love your den. This is so cool. I love, like, how non-members get so creative compared to members. Like, it's so... This is so good. I love it. 3 stars. I would give it 5, but I can't. Actually, you know what? I'll give it 6. Boom. 6. I love how you put the epic plushies in here. Yay, look it on your monkey. So cute. What other animals do you have? Wait, I love the head feather on the bunny. What foot item is that? Oh, socks. Okay. Can you put bad on trade? I want to give you something, please. Dude, the cat. I'm crying. That's so funny. I just looked at the PNGTuber that Kira made. Oh, wrong emote. Oops. You're welcome. It was a random gift from someone, and yeah, you're welcome. It matches your monkey, too, because it's purple. The sweater looks so good in the monkey. Why have I never thought of that? Yes! And it's even dressed and everything. I hate that non-members can't dress the pets. Like, that's so stupid that you can. I don't understand. This little guy is so cool. I'm so happy you like them. Some person in my stream just randomly gave it to me. And I was like, why? And they're like, I don't know, I wanted to. And so I figured I would pass on that random act of kindness. You're welcome. I'm just happy to make you happy. Okay, I'm gonna go back in here, sorry. I'm collecting toys. I don't know how long you've been here, so I don't know if you heard me say that or not, but that's what I'm doing. I have a whole den of plushies. I collect them. You need to see mine. This is my plushie den. Yeah. It's a bit excessive. I put in my epic wolf plushie because I used to have one a long time ago. I did the rainbow style too, but in the upper part. Oh. Where are you? Here. Oh! Ooh, I like that! I don't have a plushie den, I have a claw den. Let's check it out. Oh my god, oh yeah. Wait, Kira, do you know where you get this from? This tiger? Because I have one. I got it from somebody. Where do you get it from? Do you know? I tried to look it up. I tried to look it up on the wiki, but it just brought me to the regular one. Oh, I so overtraded that person. Oops. I don't want to talk about what I traded them. Because that's embarrassing. Ah! That's so embarrassing. Oh, God. That was such an overtrade. Oh, well. Like, such an overtrade. Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. Yeah, I have all of them, I think. Except for they're on one of my spares that I can't log into. So that's fun. I traded police chief hat for Warren Spike and Eclipse hat, which is pretty fair. Oh, that's good. I'm glad. Let me show you guys on stream my toy collection. This is what I have so far. I have all of the soccer ones. Let me log on to my spare really quickly. Let me just turn it off so I don't get attacked. Yeah, I've started collecting them like last weekend or this weekend actually. By the way, if you finish, oh yeah, you get the original red Panda Plushie. Okay, turn this back on. I have both. There's only a few I need. Also, I'm looking for this item, but you can't say the name of the item in game. So that's really fun. Today was the first I saw Alden wasn't full. Yeah, I've seen it not full quite a few times. Why is okay. My mouse wasn't showing up, it was really odd. My dream is the Phantom Bee. Aww. I wish I had one. I would give it to you, but I don't have one, so unfortunately I can't. That's nice. Well, I don't mind. I like giving stuff away just because it makes people happy. Ugh, have that one. See, like, I could do, for sprites. Why does my mouse disappear? You guys see that? Why is it gone? Why is it invisible? That's so annoying. What the heck? Literally just said goodbye. Okay, it's back now. Like, you could do him. Where is... Oh, here we go. Where's his talking one? Me just going through all the sprites. No, it's not. Oh my goodness. Why? Okay. None of the art on stream currently is mine. It all belongs to other artists that I commissioned, and the 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 credit is all in the description for my sprites, my border, my art on the border, my... yeah. So, it's all linked. If there is my art on stream, then I will say it's mine. I wish I could draw like that. Why is it... okay. Why are his sprites just not showing up? Some people don't like it, but I like horror art. Yeah! It just depends on the person. Is this person... E. Okay, let me just look him up. This is so cute. I used to watch his creepypasta videos. Oh! We have some creepypasta fans. Nice, nice. Okay, here we go. Maybe we'll find them. Why is it so hard? I don't like analog horror, but I like shock. I like, for, like, horror, I like, body horror. I like it because it creeps me out the most. Why is this so difficult to find? Ar Arcana Julian Sprite. I might just have to do it myself. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it myself. What outfit should I put him in? Hmm. Should I do... I feel like I should do...
Petrifiedboi said.
I hate when I do that. Oh my god. Okay. Guess I'm gonna be editing, Julian. Okay, where are his heads? Here. Oh, okay, hold on. I like how I'm supposed to be, like, streaming Animal Jam, and this is what I'm doing. Should I do this outfit? Yeah, I should. His concept art? What? It's so weird to look at concept art and just see like the characters slowly becoming like what you recognize them as. I get no members can't make shops. Why can't they buy shops? I don't either. It's really odd. Ugh. Are you serious? Oh my god. They have one of him with his eyes closed. No. Okay. That was so off. Oh my gosh. Okay, wait. Let's upload him now. Oh my god, I have so many images open. If you go to the MHD and click by this side, it takes you to a straight light pink color. What? I want to try. If you go to the room HD purple and click by the side, it takes you straight to light. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Hold on, let me do it on an animal. Okay, let's do it on this one. Click in between black and red. Black and red? Right here? I want a secret color. Right at the end of black and red? Right here? Or right here? But still on color. Oh, okay. Right here? I'm not getting anything. Is this the light pink thingy? Okay, hold on. I'm gonna. Wait, I want to see if I can get this to work. Up. Wait, hold on. That's so crazy that I can do that. Okay. Click on the very edge and keep moving to this side. I'm so lost. Okay. We got this. We got this. I swear to God, if I get this color and it's like poop brown, I'm gonna be real mad at y'all. I'm not getting anything. Why am I not getting anything? Oh my god, I saw it change from black to red and I got so excited. I don't know. Ah, magenta! Yay! Oh, I'm so impatient. I didn't even know there wasn't visible colors anymore. I just changed it to magenta. On the top corner to the very... I don't think there's anything here. I think y'all are lying. I'm at a centimeter. There's nothing is happening. Moss, help. I don't think there's a magenta here. Click the red. Yeah, I'm clicking it. Nothing. You guys, right on the top left corner of the black thing. I'm on it. Nothing is happening. Are you serious? What's the difference between that one and this one? They're exactly the same! Okay, maybe yours is a little more red. Mine's prettier than yours. Yours is ugly. I like how mine looks better. Ha 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 ha. Just click in between black and red. You guys, I'm gonna cry. What? Why are you saying down and then the other person saying up? Yes, I have a Discord. There's literally been a server invite like 40 times. Just do, hold on, I have somebody messaging me. Why is the bot, there we go, I was gonna say. Yeah, I checked DMs chat. Switch your mouse if you have to. All for a little magenta color? Please. I'm not getting anything. Yeah, I'm not getting anything. I did accept. I'm still lost. Right when you turn magenta, your camera is not on the wheel, so I can't see anything. Like, as soon as you turn magenta, the camera's facing down, I can't see. So it's not very helpful. Are you serious? You make it look so easy. Kira, I'm stealing your cat. Your cat tuber, because that's funny. Wah! 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 Didn't mean to open my college tab. You just need to click on the very top of the dark red. It's free to use just for you. Okay, I'm gonna make a new one. Oh, wrong. Okay. Ah! Oh, never mind. That's not gonna work. Ah! What? Wah! 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 Ah, bah, 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 bah. Wait, no, can I do speaking? What? Wap, wap, wap. Oh yeah, that is the one. That is the one. Are you serious? You guys got the color? I give up. I'm done. This color making me a little angry. Also, if you want to advertise, you can, but you do not have to, and please don't feel like you have to, because you don't. It's just up to you if you want to. Please don't feel like you have to, because you don't. It's just if you want to. I don't know how long I'm going to stream for, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm kind of sleepy. What? 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 Okay, bye, visual. I love the kitten too. They're so cute. Look at them just sitting there. I love how I made them shake when they scream, so it's like they're like yelling. Look at him just sitting there so peacefully, and then he's screaming. course, it's a duplicate. Another dupe. There's so many toys I need. Oh, not that one. I need, like, all the ones with the pink bottom. I need a rhino, a plain rhino. I need a lot. That's all I gotta say. Yes! A new one. That's so good, Kira. Oh my god. I want to make so many now, but I don't, like, I'm trying to think of, like, stuff I could use. Yes. I don't know why it hid that message. I don't know. Okay, whatever. YouTube a little dumb. By the way, I love to, like, watch videos with people. So, would you guys be, like, interested in, like, me streaming, like, creepypastas or something? And we watch those together? Yo, we just hit 70! Let's go. Okay, we can do that. We can do that. I'll just have to look up. I usually just look up, like, I will watch specific people, but yes, let's go. I don't have anything to give away, though, is the problem. Um, let's see here. I normally give out spikes, but I don't have any, like, that I can give away. Um, oh, I have this wristband. Do you have a pink bottle? Yes, I do. Let's do a giveaway for this wristband. So the keyword is gonna be wrist. Wait, hold on. Okay, there we go. So keyword is gonna be wrist. Keyword is wrist. Keyword is wrist if you want to get an item, possibly. Please put it in the chat. Thank you, thank you. Okay, I think that's everybody in chat. Why is Kira not? Oh, there we go. Okay. That's everyone. Let's roll. Winner is Kira! Kira is very lucky. Here we go. There we go. Welcome, welcome to the den. Let's change my tuber back. Let's save this. Cat. Now open this one. There we go. What? Okay. Let me just like buy a bunch of necklaces to put on trade. So you guys can trade me these toys if you like. Okay, I put a bunch of necklaces on trade. Okay, let's find a creepypasta to listen to. How about that? Okay. I have to hide when it rains. This one sounds good to me. Let's listen to this one. Really quickly, let's just mute the music.
I hate when it rains.
And turn this up.
Makes my skin crawl, and the pitter-pattering of the droplets pound in my ear. I hate the rain. How it fills me with bad memories. Images of my grandfather cowering under the blankets. An adult man who fought in wars, whimpering like a child as the sound of thunder shook the house. I'm so afraid of the rain, because of what it brings. A monster. A curse. I was around 2 years old when my dad left. He just disappeared without saying a word to anyone. My mum did her best to take care of her baby, while she was a kid herself. She was only 20 years old when she had me. She struggled so much because of me. Her parents had cut off all connections to her, but thankfully...
Also, I'm going to, while this is playing, I'm just gonna be quiet. And if I have to say something, then I'll pause it and say something. So.
My grandparents on my dad's side were so supportive of her. We were pretty lucky. They gave us a place to stay and took care of me while my mum worked her ass off to provide for me. Eventually, my mum was able to get a great job as a secretary for some lawyer, and we were able to get our own apartment. My mum is amazing, and when I was 6 years old, she decided to finish up her college education. It was hard for her to work, study, and raise a child, so my grandfather offered to take care of me every now and then. I remember how excited I was to see my grandfather's old truck pulling up to the school to come and get me. My grandmother had passed away a couple of years before, so it was just us boys in that big house. I'd stay there after school, and my mom would come and pick me up later that night. Things were awesome. Grandpa would let me do whatever I wanted and tell me stories of when he was a soldier fighting in dark, rainy jungles. He'd call me his partner. Just us men against the world, he'd say. There was just one thing that I always found a bit peculiar about my grandpa. He was terrified of the rain. I didn't really think much of it. He wouldn't pick me up on rainy days, though it kind of inconvenienced my mom. When I was over there while it started to rain, he would grab me and take me upstairs, locking us inside his bedroom closet. We'd sit there in the dark, and he would silently sob as he'd whisper, "It's okay, partner. We'll get through this. We'll get through this. As soon as the rain would stop, he'd take a moment to compose himself, and we'd go about the rest of our day like nothing ever happened. It was when I was 10 years old when I finally asked him, "Grandpa, what happens when it rains?" He paused and looked at me with sullen eyes. "Well, what do you mean, partner?" "When it rains, we always have to go upstairs in the closet. Even when it's just a little bit of water, we have to go in there." Grandpa looked outside, up towards the clouds. Despite it being a beautiful, sunny afternoon, he let out a deep sigh. He turned back to me and finally answered me. "Come on, partner, let's go sit on the couch so I can tell you a story." He slowly stepped towards the living room couch. I rushed over and grabbed his hand to help him. Grandpa was gaining some years, but when I grabbed his hand, he gripped it so tightly I felt a wave of nervousness. It took a minute, but we finally made it to the old pleather couch. Grandpa groaned as he took a seat. I shuffled up the couch to take a seat beside him. He chuckled and ruffled my hair. Grandpa's smile slowly faded as he started to stare off into the distance. His eyes began to glaze over. He looked at me and took a deep breath to prepare himself. Then, he told me his story. You see, my grandpa was just a young man at the time, just turned 22, and he was sent off to Vietnam to fight. He used to tell me all kinds of heroic stories when I was growing up. But this story was different.
Oh no.
His voice was low and shaky as he recounted the tale of his youth, a youth soldier who'd been fighting for his country. He was part of an infantry division. His group had caught wind of a nearby village that housed Viet Cong. They'd been in the wilderness for days. The terrain was so difficult for them to deal with, and the battles they were forced to fight in the jungles had left them paranoid. My grandpa's hands were shaking at this point as he described how silent the night was. Not even their footsteps made noise. They were low on ammunition as well as morale, but they trudged forward. They crept up to each of the huts and took out their lights, lit torches, and set everything ablaze. My grandpa began to cry at this point. He described the nauseating smell of smoke as the flames illuminated the dark clouds above them. He paused his story for a moment to cough uncontrollably. It was as if he was back to that dark night. I patted his back. Then he grabbed my hands and looked at me with his teary eyes and continued his tale. He was hesitant at first because I was so young, but he seemed determined to tell the truth. He told me that screams erupted from the crackling flames as people covered in roaring fire began to rush out of the huts. His platoon took advantage of the chaos and brandished their knives, finishing off the enemy one by one. The bodies were burning, screams echoed. Then the cries of women and children began to flood their ears. My grandfather described standing there at the center of the village, slowly realizing their mistake. A woman came barreling out of her home as her body slowly burned. She slowly stepped towards my grandfather and yelled at him in a language he just didn't understand. My grandfather was horrified as she continued to yell at him until she finally collapsed to the ground. The cries and screams slowly subsided. Then the rumble of thunder came. Rain began to crash onto them. It was a monsoon. It came down so hard that the flames were quickly extinguished. The burning bodies were now piles of melted flesh, and when my grandfather looked at the woman, he realized she was holding something. He began to describe the nausea he felt, the pure guilt when he realized that she was holding the charred remains of a baby. My grandfather began to choke up again and let out a disgusting cough. I was too young at the time, but I understood that he was in so much pain. All I could do was hug him as he began to sob. He tightened his arms around me. For a moment I couldn't breathe, but I endured for his sake and returned the hug with as much strength a child could muster. We sat there in silence for a moment. until he whispered, "That isn't the worst part, partner. It got much worse." I felt my heart drop as I heard him say that. I tried to look at him, but he kept me tight in his arms. He whispered again. "That woman, she cursed me. Her words, like a flesh that night, were burned into my memories." I felt his body begin to shake as he continued. I inquired about what she said, and apparently she cursed me. She told me that she would get her revenge on me and my men. I felt tears thump onto the top of my back as he finished his story. "Every time it rains, she comes for us. One by one, my men began to fall. Every time the damn rain came." He groaned in pain as he said it. It didn't stop there. She wanted all of my men. She didn't want just them, and she won't stop at me either. He released me from his grasp and looked deep into my eyes. His eyes were filled with an unending sadness. "She won't stop until she avenges her child too. She'll go to me, then to your daddy, then to you. And if you happen to make it by then, pray you don't have a son," he said with such terror in his voice. I couldn't control it at that point. It was too much for a child like myself, and I burst into tears. My grandfather realized what he had done and did his best to distract my young mind to help me forget. He snapped back to normal, and he tried everything to help me forget. I didn't forget. That story he told me stuck with me for a long time. He told me to never tell my mom, and I didn't. I was too afraid to tell anyone. I wish I could tell you that was when the story ended. But this is where it will begin. It was...
What's gonna happen? Like, I'm listening, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm lost. I'm so lost. What is going on? I'm so lost. What is happening? Okay.
It was that same year, a couple of months after he told me the story. On a dark summer night, I was out of school, and Mom had to start taking classes at night. So my grandpa suggested I stay over some nights. It was so much fun spending the night at my grandpa's house. We'd watch movies and eat tons of snacks. It was this one particular afternoon we were watching some cartoons on TV, and I guess we must have fallen asleep. I'm not sure how long we were out, but I was awoken by the sound of thunder. I looked around, the lights were off, and I could hear rain slowly dripping onto the old home. I placed a hand onto my grandpa's shoulder and tried to shake him awake. He stirred for a moment and slowly opened his eyes. He was about to ask
They're watching 911 without you.
He was interrupted
No
with a
way.
rumble of thunder. Despite how dark the house was, I could see his eyes shoot wide open when he started to hear the rain. He grabbed my hand and tried his hardest to get up from the couch. I hopped off the couch and tried my best to pull him up. Hurry, we have to go upstairs," he yelled. We made our way towards the stairs, and when we reached the bottom of the steps, the rain poured harder outside. The sound of rushing water was almost deafening. I went a step ahead of my grandpa, holding his hand tightly as we tried to rush upstairs. We made it halfway up the stairs, until Grandpa suddenly stopped moving. I turned to look at him and saw he was looking down the stairs. Something was mixing with the sound of raindrops and thunder. There was a low chirping noise, like someone was making a cicada noise with a broken throat. I looked down towards the darkness. I couldn't see a thing until a crack of lightning illuminated the space around us. It was for a brief moment, but I saw at the foot of the stairwell a glimpse of a dark figure looking towards us. It was thin and naked, with dark, cracked skin.
What?
It stood there with its legs bent awkwardly,
Naked.
tilted to one side.
Naked.
It was long and wild, reaching their waist. It had one long arm hanging down while the other was clutching something to its chest. I was so afraid. I didn't know who this person was or how they got inside, but I called out to my grandpa. Grandpa, please, we have to come up, I yelled, but I was just frozen in place. I felt his hands sweat and shake in my grasp. Lightning struck again, and as the room lit up,
I'm sorry, I hate how he says again.
A step closer. It was on the stairwell. I let out a scream as I took both hands to try and pull my grandpa up the stairs with me.
Grandpa!
The rain continued to come down, but that chirping sound, that disgusting low thrum, had gotten louder. Another flash of lightning, and again it got closer.
Again.
This time,
I
could
don't
see
like
that it was
it.
a woman. The woman was burned head to toe. I could see bits of her charred flesh crack as she began to step closer and closer to us. I was just too small, too weak to pull my grandpa away from her.
Grandpa!
Suddenly, the lights began to flicker on and off, and I could see what the burnt woman was holding. It was small, in her charcoal arms, a melted, fleshy mass that looked towards me with two wide sockets of darkness for eyes, and what appeared to be a toothless, open mouth.
Oh!
The noise was coming from the small thing.
Uh-oh.
My grandfather let go of my hand and just stood there before them in a daze. I cried out to him again, but my yells were drowned out by a scream. It wasn't just one scream. It sounded as if dozens of people were crying out in pain. The lights flickered wildly like a strobe light in the room. Slowly but surely, the woman pushed my grandpa down onto the steps of the stairs. She began to clamber onto him, and I heard him scream as I heard his old bones break upon impact.
Oh!
Her burnt body was on top of my grandfather, the small, melted thing being squished into my grandpa's chest and crawled towards his mouth. I sat there in awe as the small thing took its little hands and began to put them into my grandpa's mouth, going deeper into him.
I'm sorry. What the fuck? What the fuck? What is going on? What is happening? I'm so lost.
My grandpa tried to resist, but the burnt woman grabbed both of his arms and slammed them onto the stairs. I heard
No, not the boar.
crack of his bones, and he let out a muffled cry of agony. My grandpa began to choke and gag as the fleshy being began to dig inside of him through his throat from his open mouth. I let out another cry, pleading with them to make it stop, until the little monster began to pull something out of my grandpa.
Oh no.
He began to break open his mouth to carefully and meticulously pull out a beating red heart from his chest, up to his throat, out of his damn mouth. The woman slowly reached out to the thumping heart and grabbed it. It began to look at me with one eye through its long black hair. It pulled the heart towards its lips, and it opened its mouth wider and wider. It revealed sharp black teeth within the void of its mouth, and sank them into the heart. It chewed, and the blood from it spilled onto the flesh baby.
What
Its
the?
choking turned into high-pitched squeals of delight as it reveled in the falling blood. After it finished chewing and devouring my poor grandpa's heart, it looked at me.
Rip Grandpa, bro.
Lips. She picked up the baby and slowly got up, the lights finally flickering off, and I stood there in pitch blackness. I heard something roll and thud down the stairs, and, with another crack of lightning, the room illuminated, to reveal my grandfather, bloodied and broken at the bottom of the stairs.
Oh!
I fell backwards onto my butt, and I sat there
Onto
in
my
the middle
butt.
of the stairwell, covered in tears and snot. I just sat there, staring at the lifeless corpse of my grandpa for hours, until the rain finally stopped.
The flesh baby.
My mother came and found the state that we were in. She released such a blood-curdling scream, but it didn't shake me. I just stood there. The diagnosis was that my grandpa had a heart attack.
Oh yeah.
Needless to say, it took a lot of therapy to deal with what happened that night. It took years and years, but slowly, I was able to, at the very least, cope with it. Whenever it rains,
I
I turn into a frantic mess as I try my best to hide from something. My mom just couldn't stop worrying about me. She pushed everything aside to stick with me through all of it. Then I became a young man. Now I'm in my late 20s. And I'm
Uh-oh.
just trying to make sense of what I saw that rainy night. It really messed me up. Even now, I have to skip work if it rains. I dash to the bathroom stall or something and lock myself in. I got some news the other day. Apparently, my father had been found in the middle of the street across the...
What if they just live somewhere where it doesn't rain very often? Like a desert.
the country. It was raining when he had a heart attack and he ran in front of a car. I'm not sure what to do next, but hopefully those things won't find me. It began to sprinkle the other day, and I saw something creeping outside my window.
Uh-oh.
Whatever it is, it's not done. It won't be done until it takes all of my grandpa's men. I'm so afraid to end up like them. I'm terrified
What if
to see
he
those
just
things again.
What if he just transitions to a woman? Like, if they had a son and then he was like, I think I'm trans, like, family, parental figures, would the like monster still consider them a man even though they're trans and they're a woman? Because if so, then the monster's transphobic.
I'm so terrified. I'm so afraid of the rain.
I don't know. I'm gonna check what happened with the dad.
But it didn't shake me. I just stood there, stick with me through all of it. Then I became a young man. Now I'm in my late 20s, and I'm just trying to make sense of what I saw that attack, and he ran in front of a car.
What?
My father had been found in the middle of the street across the country. It was raining when he had a heart attack, and he ran in front of a car.
He had a heart attack and ran in front of a car. Okay. 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 Let's pick a new one. The God Experiment. Oh, okay.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to play God? Some questions should stay unanswered. We selected 7 individuals for the study. My colleagues found it important to have a radical mixture of gender and sexual orientation. Discrete cameras were set up throughout the participants' home and place of business. We instructed the subjects to proceed with their daily activities normally, as if nothing had changed. We then told our people a white lie. We told them that a team of scientists would be working to alter their lives. Allegedly, this group analyzed the recordings and applied subtle changes to the subjects' real-time routines. Each modification would be designed to improve personal productivity and overall contentment. We told subjects that they should not notice any differences whatsoever. It could be as simple as a passerby saying hi. We also forbid all contact with us during this time. The reality was
Hi,
that we did
Chai.
nothing. We just watched. In the interest of avoiding the ire of recent legal proceedings, I will avoid using last names. I worked with a respected sociologist named Thomas, or Tommy for short.
I don't like this
Tom's
one.
prestige in the industry.
I need something that's not. I like the ones that do a lot of world building, but I don't want to listen to that for the stream. I want to listen to like a shorter one. There's so many Skinwalker ones. Oh my gosh. I came to Earth from outer space. Okay, let me look. Body horror. $2 hours.
All current technology announced is actually old tech. When something gets discovered, It's often experimented on, exhausted, and drained by governments and militaries long before it reaches the public. This isn't some conspiracy, it's fact. I know this because I'm one of the people tasked with development on things that are beyond what's currently public. My team and I were sent to a small country in Africa. It was a small state that was not on any public map. This made things easy to deny, and made hiding the less ethical projects much easier. It was decided long ago to never give the country a true identity. Its name changes every few years, so if 2 generations of workers decided to become whistleblowers, it'd sound like they were talking about 2 completely different things. Much harder for the tinfoil hats to piece things together. Some of the team jokingly nicknamed the place Wakanda, a cult reference, and again, would be harder for conspiracists to take seriously. One of the top priorities we had was never letting the outside world get a whiff that we had an entire population secretly used for experimentation. Their whole existence was a lie, completely separated from the real world, observed carefully by the many outside forces that worked there under a shared agreement. The plus side was that they lived a life of luxury. They were the first to get all the beneficial technology we worked on. Tech that you're probably looking forward to seeing a decade from now, just handily available in their shops. I'm pretty sure they haven't had to touch a steering wheel in years. Their streets looking like a less exaggerated interpretation of a sci-fi movie set in the future. Though this balance was sometimes superseded by the less than beneficial ideas in the works. It's pretty much universal opinion to be opposed to the idea of human experimentation. But realistically, there are many examples where testing on a small sample group of people could have prevented disaster. A perfect example of this was the rushed use of Agent Orange, a nerve agent used as a weapon. However, the long-term effects were not tested, and the repercussions of its use is still prevalent in the areas it was used. There are some examples that you'll never know about too. Did you know we found what was essentially a cure for cancer? It worked great for the first decade. However, after that, something came back. It wasn't cancer. It was worse. And it was contagious. Can you imagine if that was rushed to shelves upon discovery? We calculated 1/5 of the population would have remained, namely nomad tribes far away from civilization. The experiment I helped lead had an ambitious goal. The idea conceived was to genetically enhance individuals for the benefit of society. The perfect genetics we found for imbuing the volunteer was that of an ant. With an ant's bolstered strength, enhanced constitution, and abnormal stamina, they would be the perfect workers. Manual labor injury and fatality rates would drop to nearly 0, plus the added healing factor would make the few injuries negligible. It wouldn't just be for work either. Their quality of life would improve drastically as well. Extended life, the energy to enjoy life, a massive reduction in genetic diseases like dementia and such. You just be yourself, but better. No matter what, the procedure would always physically change their appearance somewhat. The hybrids would develop small points behind the skin on their forehead, their bodies trying to replicate antennas. Their back and upper torso would swell, their frame accommodating their extra functions and strength. They also grew smaller bumps around their ribs, their bodies attempting to grow additional limbs. The biggest indicator of a hybrid is their skin, which would tint slightly with a dark purple hue. There were a number of positive benefits that we never fully calculated for. The hybrids no longer needed to breathe entirely with their mouth.
Welcome,
The subjects
welcome.
started taking on the property of partially breathing through their skin.
We're watching a creepypasta, well, not watching, but we're listening to a creepypasta about, like, this group that, like, is making people hybrids with ants, I think. I'm listening, but I'm also low-key lost, as always, so...
Something which greatly helped the deep cave miners, the precious rocks they dug up being crucial to funding the offsets of our research. Our rocketing profits was an indicator of the continued success of the program. Minus the unwanted extras, for the most part, it was a success. However, it didn't take long to find a few bugs in the program. Something we didn't initially account for was the aggression. This, plus their amplified strength, caused a few caved-in skulls at a bar and a warpath that was only stopped by some heavy firepower. This wasn't an isolated incident. Despite the many setbacks, we were proud that, underneath it all, our subjects retained their humanity and memories. Our goal was to upgrade the human race, and it looked like it was becoming realized as a success in our eyes. With each praise of success that spread across the city, the more volunteers we received. We had it to the point where we were performing the procedure on a large test group every day, confident in the safety of it all. These volunteers naturally joined our workforce and turned into a small union of hard workers. They didn't mind the labor, as in their enhanced state, what was once a grueling grind was now a brisk task. Imagine getting the wage of a dangerous job, like working on an oil rig, when it just felt like you were flipping burgers at McDonald's. The hybrids were laughing down their sleeves to the bank. A small team of hybrids could outperform a legion of an army of ordinary human workers. I was proud. During my stay, I made friends with a local. I snuck him some contraband communication equipment that could only receive and send calls to a device only I owned. Basically, a glorified walkie-talkie. If I were to give a civilian in that country any sort of outside communication, they'd have my head. And that's not a figure of speech. I knew I wouldn't be kept in that city forever, and would be called back home to work more inland. If I was called away, everything here would then fall into confidential territory, and I'd never know how things fared when I'm gone. So I set this up as a way to secretly keep up with my baby project, which I cared so deeply about. Sadly, that time came sooner than I'd thought. One of the hybrid workers was hanging out in a small town on the outskirts of the closed-off country, which sometimes hosted some of the surrounding tribes that didn't adhere to any of the societies. They thought they were free. However, they were really just another harbor demographic for experimentation. Like before, a bar brawl broke out. It was normal for them to fight out their differences, a local belief that if you won a fight, their god favored your opinion more. But as you can imagine, this was different. Our worker got into an altercation with one of the tribe's daughters. In private, he ended up ripping off her jaw and beat her to death with it. It wasn't hard to figure out the connotation of what happened and the obvious ramifications of his actions. The tribe declared war on our city. We knew it was political, and more a gesture that would warrant diplomacy. But the higher-ups prioritized us over them, and ordered an immediate evacuation of most scientists and important figures. They told us our work here was done anyway. The only positive takeaway was that the experiment was marked as a massive success. A few months at home went by with no word, and suddenly, I was barraged with contact. They personally told me they wanted me to head the task of making the product commercially viable. Despite the long time of silence, they were now practically trying to rush it out of the door. Their goal was that they wanted it to be open for anyone who volunteered. It seemed like an easy thing to sell too. Want to never be tired? Want to always be in shape without having to slave away at a gym? Want to be the safest you can possibly be in your own skin? The marketing team was having a field day at how easy this was going to be to sell. I was obviously excited. My hard work, years of study, years of working within this organization from the bottom up, years of working hard to get them to trust me, years of my life dedicated to wanting to help humanity was finally going to pay off. People dreamed that humans' next steps were in the stars, but I was going to show everyone it was within us the whole time. Work was hard. I helped tweak the formula for mass production. I even secretly cranked down the potency somewhat to hopefully alleviate any type of enhanced aggression. We were already on the testing process when I started feeling nostalgic about my first run in Africa. Upon contact, rather than the warm welcome I expected, I was instead met with a frantic rambling. He sounded like he was still moving and was trying his best to be as quiet as possible, but he managed to get enough out to explain what happened. It turns out, after we left, they carried on testing effects I never accounted for. The hive mind. Behind my back, another smaller team was siphoning information from my research to recreate the same process, but with a queen ant. When the tribes declared a war, it gave them the excuse to try out a crueler intention of my work. What's worse was that it was a resounding success. All at once, anyone with a modification stood to attention and moved as one to converge. Imagine the perfect soldiers, all as one, all enhanced beyond human limitations, all following the omniscient command of a single leader. The tyrannical implications was disgusting. It didn't end there. After they wiped out the tribe at a disturbingly sinister pace, they then were set upon the city. Slowly, the team of workers, now scarily efficient killers, quickly made their way through the streets. They were upon the walls, climbing through the windows of the unbeknownst civilians. Only few got away, but they have nowhere to go. The whole country surrounded with many kill conditions to always keep them out of contact with the outside world. What remained was a city of ants. It wasn't hard to piece together what happened, why ants were chosen, why they somehow developed extra features I never accounted for, like antennae and thicker, near bulletproof skin. The objective the whole time was to make the most effective soldiers. Or worse, the perfect subservient population. I still showed up to work, now secretly armed with this knowledge. I kept my head down, and suddenly, there was an announcement that there was no tested negative side effects, and the product was almost ready to be sent out. This announcement was done by the person who managed the whole team, the one who built up the dream team to go to the city. However, now, he appeared different. His skin was far darker. He could have tried to make the excuse it was the African sun, but that would never explain the dark purple hue it carried. He was more hunched, a feature which was overshadowed by his severely inflated upper torso. I'd seen the procedure done hundreds of times. However, I never saw inflammation that big. The only thing I could liken it to was like comparing the larger thorax of a queen ant to a regular worker ant. I knew that despite secretly tweaking the formula to lower aggression, it would mean nothing if they were simply controlled. From here on out, I can only do my part by hindering the development process. I've secretly sabotaged parts of the process, setting things back weeks or sometimes months at a time. But more and more researchers are brought in, each learning everything from the files, and each slowly getting good enough to replace me. Or worse, realize what I've been doing. Past then, it's only a matter of time before the product is announced. If it is, do not volunteer. Fight it.
That was a good one. I liked that one. You like how I said I was gonna go? Oh my god. My dog just unplugged my headphones. But, you know what? Because that was such a good one, let's watch one more. Ant-Man. Oh, my dog just made, like, everything ever in my room fall.
I have often heard people say that the day they got a cancer diagnosis was the worst day of their life. That wasn't the case for me. It wasn't that I was happy about it or anything. Rather, I was so shell-shocked and phased out that it really didn't get through to me. I went on for about a week like this, so overloaded by the new information that I basically short-circuited and was running on autopilot. I remember the day that the full truth really dawned on me, though. It happened unexpectedly and all at once. I was out walking my dog, still running on autopilot, when a brick wall of emotions collided with my brain. I was physically and emotionally thrown to the ground. I sat there for about an hour, getting a mixture of judgmental and sympathetic looks as I released all of the built-up emotions from the last week. Once I had let it all out, I stood up and continued with walking my dog. Most people in my situation would probably go through all the motions that normally occur with a serious diagnosis. Call their loved ones, make a bucket list, spend time with their family. Not me, though. I just did what I've always done. Shoved those feelings right back where they came from and continued to live my life as if nothing was wrong. As if I didn't have only 3 months left to live. You see, I was diagnosed with a very rare and very aggressive cancer. I had known for about 2 years that something was wrong with me. I was having all kinds of strange physical symptoms I had never experienced before. I was in and out of the doctor's offices constantly. Doctors, of course, did not seem to take my concerns seriously. By the time they did listen to me, it was already too late. They told me I had 3 months left to live. Maybe a little longer if I went on chemo. I had seen my uncle go through chemo. I was not going to put myself through that just to live a few more agonizing months. So I declined. As I said before, I did not process this information as a normal person would. I didn't make plans to see my family or go skydiving. Instead, I chose to get lost in my favorite vice, social media. Before the diagnosis, I was constantly on my phone, completely absorbed by apps like Facebook and Instagram. I would scroll endlessly, desperately looking for something that I knew wasn't there. After the diagnosis, though, I found that social media was the only thing that gave me some kind of comfort. I would completely immerse myself in it. Hours passing without me realizing it. Somehow oblivious to the time while I stared at the clock in my hand all day. The thing about apps like Facebook is that there is literally no end. So I would scroll day in and day out, fiendishly looking for that momentary dopamine fix that would temporarily numb the pain and take me away from my hellish situation. One day, as I was mindlessly scrolling, an ad caught my eye. Now, I have heard of Facebook ads that creepily seem to correlate exactly with something going on in your life, or something you had mentioned to a friend. I've had that happen myself on a few occasions, but this was a whole new level. The page that posted the ad was simply titled, Life. The ad read, Life, your trial is about to expire. Underneath was a counter with bold red numbers. The counter read, 2 months, 2 weeks, 5 days, 3 hours, 40 minutes, and 14 seconds. It took me a minute to process the significance of those numbers, but when I did, time seemed to stop. The hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. I could feel my hands getting clammy. It had been 12 days since my diagnosis. After staring dumbfounded at the screen for a few moments, my terror began to subside, and the rational part of my brain seemed to take over. Obviously, this is some kind of strange coincidence, I told myself. Even if it wasn't, what are the chances that the doctor had predicted my death down to the exact day? Even so, I decided to investigate the ad a little further. I clicked the link to go to the Life Facebook page. It just led me to a 404 error page. I pressed the back button and observed the ad a little closer. I realized in the bottom right-hand corner, where the sign-up link would usually be on a normal ad, was a link with Save Yourself, written in red script.
Uh-oh.
I hesitantly clicked the link. It redirected me to a new page. The first thing that I noticed was that this page had no URL. The second thing that stood out was the terrible design of the website itself. It looked like a teenager made it in the early 2000s. The word life was once again emblazoned at the top of the page in bold red letters. Beneath was the counter, displaying almost the same exact time, but the minute and second counters had ticked down. The only difference I noticed was that under the counter were 2 box links. One had a blue background with white font that said Renew. The other sported a red background with black font that read Cancel. I stared for a moment, trying to understand what was happening and pondering what my next move was. I shakily hovered my thumb above the Renew button, and before I could talk myself out of it, I clicked. I was taken to a new screen with a sky blue background and white text that read, Thank you for renewing your life subscription. Your monthly fee will automatically be deducted. Below that was an accept button. I almost clicked it, but then I realized above it was a checkbox that read auto renewal. Most illogical people in this situation would have just exited out of the website. But I have always been a curious person. I checked auto renewal and hit accept. The tab immediately shut down, and when I went to look for the ad again, it was nowhere to be found. Disappointed, I went back to my regular scrolling. A few days later, I had one of my weekly doctor visits. I always thought these were kind of asinine. How many times do I need to go to a doctor to tell me that I'm dying? This visit, however, turned out to be quite different than I expected. Some called it a miracle, others an act of God. When I found out, I cried even more than I did for my diagnosis. The cancer was gone. Not regressed, not smaller. Completely gone. No one could explain it. I felt like a new man with a new lease on life as I left the cancer center that day for the last time. I was on top of the world. Untouchable. That is, until about a month later. Ironically, I got a phone call as I was walking my dog. The other driver was drunk. It was a head-on collision. My mother was gone before the debris even settled. My whole world was rocked and turned on its head. I live hundreds of miles from my mother, but I was closer to her than anyone else in my life. A few days before her funeral, I was sitting around going through my phone when I decided to check my email. I had a message from a name I didn't recognize called Life is Great. I opened it and recognized the simple design and layout instantly. It said, "Your fee has been processed, and your subscription has been automatically renewed." Underneath was a single red button that read Cancel. I realized the day I received the email was the same day as my mother's accident. My mother's funeral was beautiful. She was a very well-loved woman in her area, so it was very crowded. As the weeks passed, I slowly started to readjust to life without my mother in it. I decided to stay at my brother's house for a little while so we could comfort each other and help each other cope. One day, as I was showering, I heard a loud bang from downstairs. I quickly grabbed a towel and ran downstairs. I hesitantly craned my head around the corner to peer into the kitchen. What laid before me was too gruesome for my mind to process. Have you ever seen what a .44 Magnum can do to a person? What was left of my brother sat at the kitchen table. The only reason I was still able to recognize him was the tattoo on his hand that held the revolver. I emptied the contents of my stomach onto the living room floor. As I stood back up and began to catch my breath, my phone chimed. I instinctively went over and picked it up. I received another email from Life is Great. Your fee has been processed, and your subscription has been automatically renewed. My heart leapt into my throat. There was no denying what was happening anymore. I tapped the red cancel button. A new message popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel life? You have 1 month, 0 days, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 0 seconds remaining if you cancel. Do you wish to continue?
What I've learned from that is, when the doctor says you're gonna die, you should just let it happen. You can't cheat life. You can cheat life, but it's not fair. There's no way to live without something happening. When the doctor says you're gonna die, just die. Okay, you know what? Let's watch another one, because I enjoy spending time with you guys.
I was a nurse, fresh
I
out of
like
my
just sitting in
program and
silence
eager
with
to start
people I
working.
know. Okay, I'm weird.
After applying to many different hospitals, I was accepted by a prestigious private hospital specializing in obstetrics and prenatal care. The hospital was famous for its surrogacy programs and had a global reputation of delivering the
Say no
healthiest
and you'll live.
and genetically superior babies. I was of course excited and couldn't wait to see my new hospital and meet my new co-workers. I arrived at the famous Blessed Wing Hospital at 9 AM sharp. I was greeted by several upbeat and cheery nurses and doctors, and my attending was just as wonderful. It didn't take long for me to make friends and fit right in with the routine. I was, of course, restricted from full access to the hospital, seeing as I was new and needed to earn my privileges. The only thing that struck me as odd was the fact that I never saw any patients coming into the hospital or leaving. What I did see were many happy couples arriving to adopt their newborns. I never saw the surrogates before or even after delivery. My job was to tend to the many newborns and ensure that each baby was taken home by their proper parents. It was a very fulfilling job to work with such small, innocent bundles of life. Each baby was perfectly healthy, and no two babies looked alike. It was as if each baby had been custom designed before birth. I only had one problem with working at the hospital. When I was outside the nursery and waiting room, I could hear loud, painful screams of the woman in labor. The doctors and nurses did their best to ease the delivering woman.
The baby ones always get me, so this is gonna be good.
The screams continued. Stranger still, the screams seemed less like screams of pain and more like screams of terror. I had learned to tune out the screams and focus on the miracle that followed. That is, until I heard one woman screaming something I will never forget. "Why are you doing this to me? Please, I want to leave." After a few months of working, I felt confident enough to start asking about the oddly absent patients. My questions were met with silence and stern looks from both the doctors and the nurses. Finally, my attending pulled me aside and told me to stop asking questions and just do my job. There was nothing to worry about. The screams of pain and terror continued to ring out through the hallways of the hospital. I found solace in the nursery where I could tend to the newborns. But the screams would always follow me as I walked through the halls. My first year passed with no incident, and I was no longer on restricted access. I could freely roam throughout the entire hospital, but there was no reason for me to wander beyond the nursery or doctor's lounge. My curiosity, however, got the better of me. Shortly after my 1-year anniversary, I was wandering the halls when I heard the screaming of another woman in labor. But what caught my attention was this was the same woman I heard pleading with the doctors shortly after I started working. She was delivering a second baby in less than 2 years.
What?
This was very risky, and as a professional surrogate, she would know better than to do this. Again, I heard her screaming in fear and begging the doctors to let her go. I didn't understand. Let her go? Was she being hospitalized against her will? I waited 2 more weeks before I finally had the nerve to check out the back rooms of the hospital. I was on
Oh
a night
no.
shift, and with little activity, it was easy for me to slip by unnoticed. I found myself walking down a long hallway with signs pointing in the direction of the numerous delivery rooms, as well as a second doctor's lounge. It was then I heard a woman cry out in pain. I had come to recognize that cry
Oh
of pain as
hi.
a woman deep in labor. The odd thing is that her cry came from behind a door labeled incubators. I didn't see anyone else in the maternity wing or exiting the delivery rooms, so I went into the room to check on her. I wish I hadn't. When I opened the door, what I saw sent a wave of nausea that I can still taste to this day. The large room had 24 beds, each bed holding a woman in different stages of pregnancies. The women were all young and of various races, and each woman had both of their arms and both of their legs amputated.
What?
The women were helpless and alone. Tubes and IVs containing nutrients and fluids snaked across the woman's mutilated bodies as the only means to keep them alive. One blonde woman, her belly absolutely massive in comparison to her mangled body, spotted me and begged me to help her. "Please, you have to get us out of here." I couldn't speak. I couldn't even move. I just stared at them with my hand over my mouth. "Please," she cried out again. "They won't let us leave. They keep using us, using our bodies." I backed away from the sight, toward the door. The woman cried out to me,
Oh.
tears in her eyes. "We can't move. We can't escape. Please, you have to help us." Fear set in, and I bolted from the room. I returned to the nursery of the hospital and stared with fascination at the innocent newborns that laid before me. This couldn't be the result of a horrific experiment, could it? My shift came to an end, and I couldn't get out of the hospital fast enough. As soon as I pulled into my front driveway, I threw up on the grass and
Me.
began weeping for the poor women I had abandoned. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing the cries of pain and the pleading for their freedom. 2 days later, I returned to the hospital and began my shift. I walked into the nursery, and my eye was immediately drawn to a newborn with blonde hair. The same hair of the woman who had begged for my help. And I knew what I saw was true. I lied to my attending and said I was going home early because I was feeling ill. As soon as I was in the safety of my home, I called the police and told them what I had seen. The police arrived at the hospital and found the same gruesome sight that I had found. The women were taken to a new hospital, and my hospital had been shut down. I breathed a sigh of relief and waited for the story to break in the news. But no story aired. There was no mention of the human incubators that had been freed from the hospital. In fact, there was no record of the women arriving at the new hospital for proper care.
Well, that sucks. That's horrible.
He sat at his computer, tongue licking his upper and lower lips in anticipation. A long-nailed, fat and grimy index finger clicked on the mouse at a dizzying pace. An observer might have thought there was an insane miniature tap dancer somewhere underneath the piles of filth that surrounded the man. However, no tap dancer could effectively practice their talent in this cramped and deplorable dwelling. The apartment smelled old. Old food, old clothes, old sweat and old urine. Older keepsakes from a time when Meek was a different man than the behemoth sitting behind the computer now, peeking through the places where the trash didn't take over. A narrow path wound its way around the dwelling, taking Meek to the vital places he needed to go when life interrupted. A path to the bathroom that was rarely used anymore, and another that forked 30 degrees to the apartment entrance. Others led into the kitchen and what might have once resembled a dining room. Another path ended abruptly in front of the bedroom's entrance, a ramp of filth almost reaching the smoke alarm above the doorframe. The high amount of detritus that formed those paths were momentums, showing the sloth of the recent past. An involuntary story from the ground up. Most of the bottoms of them were newspapers he used back when caring seemed to still be a second nature, to soak up the vomit and spilled beer. After the insulating layers of refuse began to accumulate, above them, however, the carpet became passé to his thoughts, an empty and flattened tampon box, whose corner jutted out from one of the disgusting hillocks near his computer, caught the corner of his eye. His wife, Marie, had left him about a year or more ago, but he barely remembered what she looked like. Even the dust and grime-covered picture lying face up near the monitor offered a view of the woman he didn't really remember knowing. She took their infant daughter,
Oh.
Krista, with her, as it became clear that Meek was quite incapable of anything besides playing his online games.
Oh,
He
sounds
suddenly
like me.
kicked the
I'm just
small
kidding.
mound of pizza boxes under his desk in frustration as his main game character fell to his demise off a ravine and into the pixelated lava below. The group he was running this dungeon with would undoubtedly boot him out of the group for his failure to keep up. He kicked the mound again, his long, yellow, big toenail piercing a hole through the box and into what he perceived to be the wall beyond. The pain barely registered at first due to Meek seeing that his internet connection had been terminated. He stomped his other foot into the moist and brown-coloured spot on the floor to his left. A pungent smell that he had all but become immune to ran through his nostrils. He glanced at his fractured toenail, now resembling the misshapen tip of a blooded spear. He grabbed the foot in pain and cursed the monitor before him. His game character, a skeleton at the bottom of the molten orange doom. He worked hard to get his game character to this point. Now this. Did he cut into the coaxial cable that supplied his internet access with his toenail? Did he kick something else? God damn it all! He shouted to the screen before him, a middle finger echoing what the mountains of garbage near him wouldn't let his voice do. He quickly stood, the crusty and stained seat cushion briefly sticking to his rear and bringing the chair up, and then
Ooh,
down
bro.
with a plastic wheel bang. Trying to think quickly for a solution to his connectivity problem, he made his way along the kitchen path, slowly limping to the telephone. He was surprised at how much he had been sweating. Was the AC broken too? He silently thanked his dead mother for the trust fund that she had left to him that sustained his living these past few years. He would call the landlady after the cable company. He became lightheaded as his overweight frame limped among the refuse and vomited into an empty cereal box before entering the kitchen, grabbing a dusty and half-full beer off what must be the dining room table. He drank, expelling the acidic taste from his mouth. He dry-heaved from the taste of the old beer, thankful that the taste of puke no longer lingered. He hadn't used the phone in ages. No need to, really. He used both hands to claw through some hamburger wrappers and matted paper towels to about where he estimated the phone to be. Several cockroaches scampered away at his touch, their surreptitious duties temporarily put on hiatus. He was correct in the assumption of where the phone should be. He was incorrect by thinking the phone was still there, however. He faintly remembered Marie saying how the phone's ringer woke up the baby at night, since they could only afford a one-bedroom place at the time. The kid had to sleep in the living room, and since they both had cell phones at the time, the home phone was redundant. So, did she move it? Put it away? Throw it out? Damn it, he said as he picked a small, itchy brown piece of crust from the back of his leg,
Ooh, bro.
clawing at the skin underneath. His toe was bleeding worse now. The toenail, much worse than he thought as he examined it in the brighter light of the kitchen. The nail cracked vertically, all the way down, apparently breaking beneath the skin as well. His toe was easily twice the size it had been before his gimpy trek into the kitchen. A sickly wedding of purple and yellow. Meek didn't know the first place to look if Marie had put it somewhere, and quite frankly, he didn't feel like digging through more mounds to look. Another option was the bedroom. There was a landline connection in there. Maybe it was buried somewhere in there. His desire to get back to his game, coupled with his throbbing foot, prodded him to go back and look. He wobbled along the bedroom path, straight down the hallway, the carpet he trod on making sickening wet sounds. He paused for a glance into the bedroom he stopped using months ago. A brown, conical shape of solid brown and green substance protruded from the grimy toilet. He could see several flies tending to their young amongst the shape, buzzing in paternal defense as they sensed Meek's presence. Matted balls of toilet paper stood knee-high, occasionally broken by the mouths of empty beer bottles. The beer tops almost looked like brown mouths drowning in the sea of disgust. Smears and handprints of a darker colour lined the tiles. A picture hung by the entrance of the bathroom. Meek and Marie standing in front of the lake at Epcot Center. The baby was nestled in Meek's arms, the peaceful shroud of sleep evident on her face as her happy father kissed her forehead. Was that taken before or after the wedding? He thought. He remembered that day, the baby cooing as the boat made its way through the tunnels in the Mexican section of the park. He had no idea why, but he also remembered Marie giving him a light but tender kiss on his neck as the boat sloshed its way through the artificial passages. He made his way toward the bedroom entrance, having to limp, wade through the trash that he didn't remember making. Glancing behind him, he noticed that he left a red trail as his foot dragged behind him. Clearing the way to the door took longer than he thought. There were several large boxes hiding beneath the garbage that were heavier than he expected, their contents unimportant as the longing of getting back to his game took precedent over all else. They were stacked high as well, almost reaching where the door met the frame. Throwing the last box behind him down the hallway with a grunt, he grabbed at the doorknob and tried to open the bedroom door. It was locked. After several minutes of determination, a few pulls from his obese frame, and many curses of frustration, the door gave way, splintering the frame and showering Meek's forearm with wooden debris. The room was dark, cool, and surprisingly clean. The light shone from the hallway behind him, exposing the motes of dust that chaotically danced at the door being thrust open. Had he really not come in here at all over that year or two? The carpet was the perfect beige it was when his family moved in a few years ago. The pictures that Marie picked out still hung around the room. Parisian beatnik monstrosities that Meek still gave disdainful glance to. She insisted that, since there were no windows in the room, she would make it as sunny as possible. The bed was made as well, the dark brown comforter, looking eerily the same colour as the putrescent contents of the bathroom he glanced at minutes before. The phone was in the nightstand on the side that Meek used to sleep on during cheerier times. With a sigh of relief that any heroin user could relate to after finally getting a reclusive fix, he limped over to the phone. One foot left a bloody streak, and the other left a brown footprint on the unmarked carpet. Sitting down on the bed, he picked up the phone's receiver and started to dial when he noticed the square-shaped thing in the corner. Since he didn't think to turn on the light when he came in, the hallway's light didn't reach the corner. He couldn't make out what it was. He gave his toe a rub, hand coming back bloody, and winced in the pain as the dread of realization crept up on him. There was no dial tone. This could mean only one thing. Marie had cancelled the service at some point without telling him. Or more likely, he didn't pay the bill after she left. He couldn't remember. Grabbing the phone in frustration, he threw it in the direction of the square-shaped thing, cursing. He was getting very lightheaded now, the coolness of the room doing little to alleviate the sweat drenching his balding, fleshy head. He stood and hobbled over to the square thing in the corner. As he came up beside it, he grabbed the edge of it and winced in pain, his foot feeling as if it was on fire. He looked into the square thing, now finally realizing what it was, not just because of its physical shape, as much as its contents. The long, decaying corpse of an infant lay in the center of the playpen. The skin almost resembled one of those purplish super hot peppers he used to see at the grocery store, making bizarre spiral patterns along the top of the skull. The infant had a permanent scream on its wrinkled and deformed face, as though it was seeing something horrible before its death. That horrible thing must have been loneliness, Meek thought as he glanced at his daughter. That thought was quickly dashed, however, as he noticed another figure standing upright in the darker corner beyond the crib. Marie's eyeless face pointed to the ceiling in a look of pain, as if she had died crying. One hand still rested on the corner of the playpen, the other pulling down the shirt where her breast had been. She must have given the infant, Christina, that was her name, one last meal before she herself had expired. Cursing in worried anticipation, he picked up the phone. It was, thankfully, still in one piece, with the cord from the wall still attached to it, and hobbled to the bedroom door, deciding he would try the kitchen's phone receptacle, now out of feverish desperation. As he made his way through the doorframe, he immediately saw a problem. The heavy boxes that he'd thrown behind him in a frenzy moments before now made a heavy wall that merged with the garbage piles. He could see a portion of his computer's monitor beyond, a bubbly, orange haze through cardboard and refuse. His foot throbbed and his chest suddenly contorted in pain as self-preservation began to take hold of his fevered body. Dropping the phone, he fell to his hands and knees, crawled toward the barricade. The first box before him wasn't so bad to move, but the next was impossible, positioned as he was, and he slumped over it. He sensed the cockroach that must have been only partially killed with his weight tickle the side of his torso. Just a rest, he mumbled.
Oh, he gonna die.
The kitchen is just around the corner. So close. I will have my internet back within an hour. Just one phone call, he thought, longingly looking at his computer screen through the cardboard and refuse cracks. His heart finally took his frustration, his toe pain, and him along with it.
That one was sad. But I don't understand the wife and the daughter being dead part didn't make sense to me. Like, maybe I'm just missing something, but why were they, like, not like the fact of them being dead, but like the baby's face being in fear and the woman being in fear. For what? What did they see? I'm a little confused. This one is me when the internet's down. Okay. Should we Watch another one, or should I go get the mail that has my package in it? Someone vote. Okay. I'll go on BRB. Actually, you know what? I can play another one and just I'll leave it for you guys so you have something. How about that? There.
Good evening, and welcome to Otis Gyri's Creepypasta Crypt. In the mood for a tasty pasta to increase your adrenaline rush? Well, you've come to the right place. Pull up a chair, get some popcorn, put your feet up, and have a listen, if you dare.
Fuzzy, by an anonymous author, narrated by Otis Gyri. I was jolted out of sleep when my 5-year-old son Kevin jumped on top of me. I let out a little yelp, both from the shock of the impact and from being ripped out of a deep sleep. A little disoriented, it took me a few minutes to figure out what was going on. Now, jumping up and down on the bed, Kevin yelled, "Fuzzy, come again! Fuzzy, come again!" I sighed, rubbed my eyes, and checked the clock. It wasn't even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. Kevin continued to jump ecstatically around the bed. By now, my wife was awake and very cranky. She looked over at the clock and, seeing the time, released a frustrated moan. "Kevin, can't you wait until at least 6? She murmured sleepily. She too had been sleeping soundly. "Fuzzy, come again. I told you you would." Kevin was too excited to care what time it was. It could have been 1 in the morning for all he cared. "He's back. He's back." Fuzzy, as he called him, was what we assumed was Kevin's imaginary friend. Our son described him as a fuzzy, colorful creature that arrived in magical mist through his window every night, and they played together. Kevin claimed that Fuzzy could change colors and even his shape, but one detail never changed. He was always fuzzy. My wife and I both dismissed this as an imaginary friend phase, as we lived in a somewhat rural area outside of a minor city, and there was no one around to play with. Every morning, Kevin would tell us what he did with Fuzzy last night. His stories would include making puzzles, reading books, jumping around, and cuddling. The one thing that was weird, though, was the fact that Kevin had, at first, told us that Fuzzy didn't want us to know about his nightly visits. A bit of a put-off at first. I soon disregarded this as merely a child's need to feel special, because he had a secret. Sometimes, I felt the need to check on Kevin at night just to make sure everything was all right. The main reason I didn't was because Kevin was a very light sleeper, in contrast to me and my wife, who were very heavy sleepers, and I didn't want to run the risk of waking him up. Kevin had stopped talking about Fuzzy a couple of months back, so we just assumed that he had grown out of it. I didn't see anything wrong with Kevin bringing Fuzzy back. I was happy as long as he was happy. I was a stay-at-home dad. My wife worked in the city and was gone pretty much all day, so I kept an eye on Kevin as he wasn't in school yet. It did get rather annoying after a while, constantly being bombarded with stories of Fuzzy all day. I smiled at Kevin's enthusiasm, but deep down, I felt a sense of dread welling up at the idea of Fuzzy returning. I got up out of bed and left the room, leaving my wife to deal with Kevin, and went downstairs. While making breakfast, I decided to check the newspaper. A car had crashed on the interstate and no body had been found. In other news, a wealthy woman donated some money to the state for park improvements or something. claiming that their current condition was simply unacceptable. There was a short editorial on why kids were doing poorly in school and parenting suggestions on the topic. Next, I read that an old man who had been accused of pedophilia and using hallucinogens and other drugs to lure and abuse children had been arrested 3 months ago, but shortly after had been released from jail as there was not enough incriminating evidence. There was some sports stuff too, but I didn't bother checking that as I was never really into sports. Later that day, I was in Kevin's room cleaning up. It smelled funny in his room. In fact, the last time I remembered it smelling this way was the last time Kevin talked about Fuzzy. I thought about it for a moment, but decided to just dismiss it as just fermented body odor from him jumping around on his bed with his imaginary friend. I decided to open the window as it was giving me a headache. Looking out, I saw Kevin out in the yard playing with some of his toys. It had rained last night and the ground was soft and muddy, so I made sure to warn him not to go near the mud. I lowered my head to withdraw back into the room, but noticed something on the ground beneath the window. 2 holes, about a foot or so apart. The holes weren't that big, so I wasn't too concerned. It just bothered me as I couldn't think of anything that might have made them. I looked up to ask Kevin if he knew what they were, as I figured he might have been responsible. He'd moved somewhere else, though, and I didn't feel like chasing him down to ask him about something so menial. The next day, I was wiping down a window in the dining room, which led directly below Kevin's room. The 2 holes caught my eye again. However, this time they were even bigger than before. At dinner, I decided to ask Kevin if he had been digging in the backyard. He said no, so I figured it must have been animals or something. That evening, something else occurred to me, and I sought out my son to ask him a question. I found Kevin in the living room. "Hey, Kevin," I began, "why does Fuzzy only come at night? You seem bored lately, and you never play with him during daytime." He simply shrugged. "I don't know," he replied. "He just doesn't." This was when things started to feel truly off. It had never occurred to me before that Kevin didn't play with Fuzzy during the daytime. I figured it was probably just his way of keeping Fuzzy in a more realistic light. If he brought Fuzzy out to show him to us, he would see that we clearly didn't believe in the fluffy piece of air next to him. Yeah, I told myself. That was it. That was why. Nothing much happened for the next week or so. My wife and I went to bed at 10 o'clock sharp, as usual. We let Kevin stay up later if he wanted to, so he could play with his imaginary friend. We didn't mind the noise he made. In fact, if we were asleep, we didn't hear it at all. Hell, the train couldn't wake us up once we hit deep sleep. Every night, Kevin would say something different about Fuzzy. One night, he apparently brought Fuzzy a cookie, which I strongly suspected he stole from the cookie jar, and another night, he reported that he had flown through the clouds while riding on Fuzzy's back. We were happy that our child's imagination was healthy, but the nagging feeling that something was off about these incidents, it never went away. The next week, I had to start putting Kevin to bed at the same time my wife and I went to bed, and later on, earlier than us. School was coming up soon, and I wanted his biological clock set to a normal rhythm so that he could wake up early and on time for class. But of course, this disrupted his Fuzzy schedule, and he would not go to bed without a fight. As days passed, it was becoming visibly obvious that he was not going to sleep when he was supposed to, and was instead getting up after we both fell asleep. Dark circles soon formed around Kevin's eyes. He became whinier than ever and nearly impossible to deal with, leaving me utterly exhausted every day. Needless to say, I had no trouble falling asleep that week. I was getting sick of my authority being undermined, so I made the decision to stay up late one night in order to catch Kevin in the act. I went to bed as normal, got up and moved to a chair, and after about 30 minutes spent sitting there in silence, I began to doze off. At that point, I decided I needed some help in my stakeout, so I crept downstairs to make a quick batch of coffee. The feeling that something was wrong never left me. It felt as if my paternal instincts were sending me one warning after another, but I didn't know why. I stood in the kitchen, sipping my coffee for what seemed like ages. Frequently glancing at the clock didn't help. I spent most of the time reading the newspaper, and every time I began to doze off, I refilled my mug with another steaming dose of caffeine. Having grown accustomed to the silence, I jumped a little when I heard a dull thud coming from upstairs. I checked the time, which read midnight. I had no idea Kevin had the capacity to wait for more than 3 hours just for a stupid imaginary friend. I quietly set my stuff down on the kitchen table and tiptoed to the stairs. I made sure to avoid the creaking steps as I slowly ascended into the darkness of the second floor. Just as I reached the top step, I heard Kevin's voice from down the hallway. "Fuzzy!" he exclaimed in joy, not a hint of sleepiness in his voice. By that time, it was blindingly obvious that Kevin had been awake and for some time. Then, as I slowly made my way down the hallway, I heard another thump emanate from Kevin's room. I thought about calling out his name and scolding him right then, but decided against it, as it would only serve to alert him to my presence and allow him to retreat under the covers and pretend he was asleep. The feeling that something was wrong grew immeasurably then, until it was nearly unbearable. A soft hissing noise was audible then, coming from the direction of Kevin's bedroom. I reached the door, gulping. I quietly gripped the handle, turned it, and pushed. As I opened the door, Kevin's bedroom window came into view. It was wide open, and in it I saw a ladder. I flung the door wide open and nearly fainted. There, in the middle of the room, enveloped in a noxious fog, was an elderly man, covered in body hair from head to toe, wearing nothing but a gas mask. And there, too, was my son, sprawled across his bed, a hose up his nose, spewing hallucinogenic gas.
Hi, Otis Gyrie here. Thanks for joining me around the digital campfire today. Your support
My father worked for a human research company in the 70s and 80s before some organizations such as the IRB, Institutional Review Board for the Protection of Human Subjects in Research, and the Belmont Report could catch on. He retired and went on to live a nice, relaxing life with my mother, his wife of 30 years. After she died, his own health began to deteriorate, and he willed his estate and possessions to me upon his passing. This ticked off my two other siblings, but that's mostly irrelevant because I intend to sell the house, property, and most of the items left to me and divide the money between us all. I guess that's why everything was left to me instead of split. I'm the responsible one. My father, Noah Foster, was an amazing man and a very caring father to all of us. I don't think I ever once questioned his love for all of us. He never talked about what he used to do, only that he did help mankind in general, and he was glad to be out of it. The retirement check each month was hefty, and he never needed to look for another source of income. His savings is enormous, and if we are careful, we probably won't have to work again if we don't want to. But that's not why I'm here. See, I didn't enlist the help of my bitter siblings in the cleaning and cataloguing of my parents' possessions, or rather, my new possessions. So, when I found the box, I was alone. My father kept all his work-related things in the basement, which was always locked. One of those things willed to me was a keyring with 3 keys. The brass key unlocked the basement door, and the silver key unlocked a large, floor-to-ceiling safe in the basement. That's where I found the boxes. Inside the safe were boxes of various dates and scribbled names, mostly faded, and some eaten by time to the point where it and its contents are little more than dust and decay. Some of the boxes I haven't opened yet. I'm honestly afraid of what I'll find. Their labels are obscure, and after reading what I found in the first box, I don't know if I'll dig any deeper. Let me share with you what I've discovered. The box itself is cardboard and heavy. It's bound in thick tape, and I wasn't worried the bottom would fall out, as it had some sort of hard plastic wrapped around the base. It looked very commercial. The lid had a faded yellow tape with black bold letters and the words, "Sensitive documents. Tampering with a seal without authorization is a criminal act." In marker on top were the words, "Human Detachment Project." I cut the seal. These boxes were easily 30 plus years old, and they legally belonged to me. The contents from the top to bottom were as such. 4 folders filled with scientific notes and some photographs of a family, not mine. A metallic box 4 inches wide and 5 inches tall that I'm so far unable to open. A relatively new-looking voice recorder. This one was most odd, as it seems far more advanced than anything in this box should be. And last, at the very bottom, a record inside of a sleeve. No title or label. Now, I'm going to relay everything notable I've read and heard. Maybe it'll help me understand what my father was working on, or why. Most of these names have been redacted, my father's including. I'm guessing so. I don't know if these are his notes or someone else's. The notes. July 3rd, 1973. Redacted, compiling the incentive for the Human Detachment Project. In 3 years, CERN will publicly announce the completion of their Super Proton Synchrotron. The project was truly finished 4 days ago, and testing has already begun. After the failure of Apollo 13 and the subsequent lack of information yielded from Apollo 14, the administration has given the green light to the Daphne program, which will bypass the exploration portion and move straight to redacted on the moon's surface. These works double as isolation research and the test of space on the human psyche. Next note. Henry Tajfel has published his notes on the minimal group paradigm, developing the basis idea for the Human Detachment Project. Next. Redacted has been discovered in the Kola super deep borehole. All proof of redacted has been removed, and thus has confirmed that humans/human-like can survive isolated for an unknown amount of time, as redacted were oblivious to existence of life outside of the cavern. This concludes the incentive for the Human Detachment Project. That page was the first inside the top folder. The rest of the notes were newspaper clippings and typed/handwritten notes about those events, as well as other notable things around that time. Each one touching on this Human Detachment Project. The second folder contained a picture of a family of 4. There were no names on the photograph, but the next page had information. September 28th, 1973. Most of the name had been redacted, except Stir. I believe this folder, or at least these notes, were written or compiled by my father, Noah Foster. Compiling notes for the Human Detachment subjects. George Polk, 38, male. No history of mental illness or underlying health issues. Mary Polk, 36, female. no history of mental illness, prone to migraines. William Polk, 12, no history of mental illness or underlying health issues. Deborah Polk, 5, female, underdeveloped mental capacity due to age, ineligible for testing, removed. Subject family offered the sum of $50,000 upon completion of the trials. Subject's family agreed in the understanding that Deborah Polk be put under the care of outside family. The next item is a missing person poster dated October 10th, 1973. Deborah Polk, age 5, missing from grandmother's care since late September. The rest of the folder contained detailed medical records of each member of the family, apart from Deborah. The third folder is dated December 1974. The first page is handwritten and worn to the point where I can't read it. I skimmed a few pages, but most of the notes seem smudged or blurred. Towards the end of the folder, I can read parts of it. It appears to be a woman's handwriting. Phase 3 began early this morning. After keeping the subject family separated for 6 days of the week and together 1, we then separated them into 2 weeks alone and 1 day together. Phase 3 consists of 1 month in isolation, followed by 1 hour of forced community time. This will continue until the final phase in 6 months. The remainder of the notes are observations of the 3 subjects. Inside the last folder are things I would have never believed people could do to another person. I almost don't want to share this in the event that it could harm my father's reputation, but I fully believe my father was not involved in the actual testing. I'm hoping to God the partial redacting on the previous folder was his part in the initial screening only. The first page of the folder is a printed email. July 5th, 1976. Charles Lynn, compiling summary of the Human Detachment Project. The project officially ended 2 days ago after it was forgotten for several months/years longer than it should have continued. The initial grant was for 1 year of human isolation in singular peoples only. The use of children and families were never approved. The following are excerpts from the various sources inside the Human Detachment Project. It has been deemed a success by some and a massive failure by others. My supervisor, redacted, believes that this information can help thousands, although I personally fail to see how it could benefit anyone, as the methods were little more than torture, and the executors of the project have since been reprimanded. I will be taking a copy of my report to the head office in hopes of finding Deborah Polk. Next note. After extreme isolation, followed by increasingly limited community time, the father has attempted to kill subject's son on 5 separate occasions, each one with more extreme violent outbursts. Subject's mother attempted to lobotomize herself on 2 different ways, which resulted in the now constant restraint of her hands. Subject's son's mental health saw the fastest decline as he began to develop extreme split personality disorder. Next note. Subject's family was introduced to a looped recording of prayers spoken in Latin after the urging of Dr. Geddings. I believe this was more of a personal experiment than a necessary addition. Next note. Subject's son has now begun speaking fluently in Latin, even words that are not on the looped recording that has been played for 17 weeks straight. Subject's mother was found dead in a room. Her hands remained bound, but bruising and a crushed windpipe were the cause of death. Subject's father claims to have killed her because, quote, she begged me to. Neither subject had seen each other in over 3 months. Subject's father killing subject's mother, deemed impossible. Subject's son was found in the community room. His room was still locked. and as there are no doors or windows, it is unclear how he escaped. He was found standing in front of subject's mother's now empty room, whispering to her in Latin, holding a small metallic box. Origin unknown. Subject's father was released into a sealed room with 2 interviewers for final assessment before release. Upon being told he would be released, subject's father took his own life with a pen of an interviewer. His last words were, "Don't make me leave. You can't make me leave." Subject's son remains in isolation. It is unclear for how long. Interview recorded shows clear psychosis and mental breakdown. I will be sending copies of this to various heads. The cruelty and forced isolation of these people is far beyond criminal neglect. The remaining papers are the medical reports and death certificates of George and Mary Polk. The dates are redacted. The last thing in the box is the voice recorder. I had to pick up some batteries before I could listen to it. It went as follows. Interviewer: "Do you know where you are?" Son: "I am at redacted." This is a long redaction. I think he said the actual address. Also, his voice is quite deep for a youth. Interviewer: And why do you think that's where you are?" Son: "I just know." "If we can determine that you are healthy, we would like to release you." "I don't want to leave." "Why not?" "I am not one of them outside. I am inside." "We are going to release you. We need to see how you react around others." "I don't want to leave." The audio breaks up a few times here, before it cuts off. That's everything I know about the Human Detachment Project. I don't know what's inside the small box, and I have a pretty good idea about what's on the record. I'm afraid to dig deeper. I have a few more boxes with various titles, such as The Snakeskin Experiment, Operation Stopwatch, and a few others. One box in particular makes me nervous. It's double taped and has the words "Failed Experiments" on the top. I have one key left on the key ring, and I don't know if it goes to something else inside of one of these boxes or not. But I feel he left it to me for a reason. I really don't want to go through more of these boxes, but there are just so many. And why would he have these? Why wouldn't they be somewhere more secure than his basement all this time?
Okay, I'm back. My dog is yelling at me to be let in, but I'm gonna end the stream now. Thank you all for tuning in with me, and have a good day. Goodbye.